The apartment smells of that industrial-grade lemon cleaner, the kind management uses when a tenant moves out, designed to erase any trace of the person who lived there before. It's working. It's not just that his things are gone, they've been surgically removed. There's a perfectly straight line of dust on the bookshelf where his physics textbooks ended and my novels began. The closet is the worst, just a cavernous, hollow space on the left side, the scent of his laundry detergent already fading. Even his ridiculously chipped world's okayest physicist mug, the one I got him as a joke, is gone from its spot next to the coffee machine. I'm sitting on the floor because the sofa still faintly smells of him, and I can't handle that right now. My phone is in my hand, its screen dark, but I can feel the weight of it. The weight of that stupid 17-second video I still haven't deleted. The crying part hasn't happened yet, I'm not even sure it will. People imagine a breakup is a sudden violent event, a car crash of emotions. This doesn't feel like that, it feels like I'm sitting in a morgue. The relationship is the body on the table, cold and still, and I'm the medical examiner about to pick up the scalpel and figure out the cause of death. Except I already know, I was the one holding the murder weapon. His name is Simon, or was, I guess he still exists somewhere out there living a life governed by laws I broke. Simon was methodical, he wasn't just a neat freak. His entire existence was an exercise in controlled variables. He alphabetized the spice rack. He created spreadsheets to track our monthly budget, complete with pivot tables analyzing our spending on takeout versus groceries. He was a physics PhD candidate, and his world was governed by principles, by the elegant certainty of mathematics. There was a right way to do things and a wrong way and very little gray in between. I used to find it endearing, this sweet, almost naive rigidity. It was like living with a human instruction manual. It made me feel safe. His dissertation was the cornerstone of that world. For 6 years, it was the third person in our relationship. I knew its rhythms intimately. The frantic clatter of his keyboard late into the night, the low hum of the university library servers he was connected to, the landscape of our apartment, piles of academic journals on the coffee table, whiteboard equations scrawled on our bathroom mirror. It wasn't just a graduation requirement, it was his war of attrition against his own background. Simon came from a family of mechanics and contractors in a small town where getting a college degree was seen as putting on airs. His father and brothers loved him, I think, but they saw his life's work as a kind of elaborate, useless hobby. I remember him on the phone with his dad once, trying to explain quantum entanglement. After a long, painful silence, his father just grunted and asked if his truck's rattling noise could be caused by quantum. Simon didn't get angry. He hung up, looked at me with a profound weariness, and said, "They'll get it when it's published, they'll see." That paper wasn't just paper, it was his shield, it was his proof. It was his one-way ticket out. That was his red line, his most sacred principle, the inviolability of his work, his effort. And then there was me. I'm chaos wrapped in a semi-functional human suit. For the first 2 years, things were perfect, too perfect. We'd have these quiet Sunday mornings, sunlight streaming in, the smell of his perfectly brewed coffee filling the air, and a cold dread would seep into my bones. It felt like I was an actress in a play about a happy life, and soon everyone would realize I didn't know my lines. This is the part I can't explain, not really. It's a dark little engine in my brain that starts to hum when I feel too safe. It's a remnant of a past I don't like to talk about, a deeply ingrained belief that nothing good can last, and if it looks like it's lasting, it must be a fragile lie. So I test it, I poke it, I introduce a little chaos to see if the structure will hold. I'd done it before in small ways. For our second anniversary, I told him I had to work late, then went and sat in a bar alone for 2 hours just to see what would happen. I walked into the restaurant to find him sitting there, not angry, but with a look of deep concern. He'd already ordered my favorite wine. "I was so worried," he said, standing up to hug me. "I thought something happened to you." He never even questioned my excuse, he just forgave. And that forgiveness, that patient, logical kindness was like gasoline on the fire. It didn't soothe the engine in my head, it made it roar louder. Each time he passed a small test, it just proved to me that the next one needed to be bigger. It was a sick, twisted validation. If he could forgive that, then his love must be strong enough for an even greater challenge. The day it happened, he was at the annual departmental symposium. An all-day affair. He'd left that morning buzzing with a nervous energy that was almost cute. He'd laid out his clothes the night before, a button-down shirt that I'd ironed for him, his one good pair of trousers. He kissed me goodbye, his mind already on presenting his preliminary findings. "Wish me luck," he'd said. I'd smiled and said, "You don't need it." The apartment was silent after he left. Too silent, the silence was a vacuum, and my brain, my sick and broken brain, rushed to fill it. The engine started humming. It began as a low thrum in the back of my skull, a familiar vibration. This is too good, this is too easy. He loves his work more than you. You know he does. He's out there in his world and you're just here. A part of me, the rational part, the part that genuinely loved Simon, was screaming. Go for a walk, call a friend, watch a movie, do anything else. But the other part, the saboteur, was already in control. It was like watching someone else pilot my body. I walked over to his small desk in the corner of our living room. His laptop was there, sleeping. I lifted the lid. His background was a picture of the two of us at the beach, me on his shoulders, both of us laughing. For a second, that image almost broke the spell. It was a perfect, tangible piece of evidence of our happiness, and that's what made me do it. The perfection of it felt like a taunt. I found the folder labeled dissertation instantly. Inside, there was one file that mattered. He'd shown it to me 100 times, his pride and his terror all wrapped up in a single icon. Dissertation draft Velevin.x. 11 versions, hundreds of pages, thousands of hours. My hand trembled as I moved the cursor over it. The rational part of me was now a tiny, muffled voice in a soundproof room. The saboteur was at the helm, calm and purposeful. I didn't just drag it to the trash. That would be too reversible. I held down the shift key. The little pop-up window appeared. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this file? My heart was hammering against my ribs. I clicked yes. There was no explosion, no sound at all. Just the icon vanishing from the screen. For a single, horrifying second, the weight of what I'd done crashed down on me. It was a physical sensation, like being plunged into ice water. But the saboteur wasn't finished. It needed a narrative, it needed a justification. The plan crystallized in my mind, fully formed and monstrous. This would be the ultimate test. When he came home, I wouldn't confess. I would frame it as a twisted, insane loyalty test. The words formed in my head, ready to be deployed. I just wanted to see what was more important to you. Me or this stupid paper? The logic was so twisted, so fundamentally broken, but in that moment, it felt like the only truth. I was giving him a chance to prove his love in a way that no one ever had for me before. I was giving him a chance to choose me over his entire future. He came home around 8. I heard his keys in the lock and my whole body went rigid. I had spent the afternoon rehearsing, pacing the apartment, my stomach churning. I'd even put on a little makeup, trying to look casual, innocent. He walked in glowing. I'd never seen him like that. All the nervous energy from the morning had been replaced by a quiet, confident joy. Lex, he said, dropping his bag and pulling me into a hug. He smelled like stale conference room coffee and the crisp autumn air outside. It went better than I could have imagined. Professor Albright pulled me aside afterward. He said the methodology chapter was one of the strongest he's seen from a student in years. He thinks we can get it published in Nature Physics. He was beaming, his eyes shining with a future I was about to extinguish. He was talking about journals, about postdocs, about a life he had earned. Every triumphant word was a nail in the coffin. That's amazing, see? I managed to say, my voice sounding thin and foreign to my own ears. Amazing doesn't even cover it, he laughed, finally letting me go and heading for his desk. I just need to incorporate a few of his notes while they're still fresh in my head. This was it. The moment of impact. I stood there frozen as he sat down and woke up his laptop. I watched the muscles in his back as he clicked the mouse, navigating to the folder. I saw his shoulders tense slightly, a puzzled frown. He clicked again, then again. That's weird, he murmured, more to himself than to me. The file's gone. He started searching the drive. My rehearsed nonchalance evaporated, replaced by a cold, thrilling terror. The saboteur in me was leaning forward in its seat, hungry for the drama. Oh, did you need that? I asked, my voice a grotesque parody of casualness. He turned to look at me, his brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Of course I need it. It's my dissertation. I took a breath. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I hit the record button, the little red light blinking like a malevolent eye. I smiled, a wide, brittle, horrifying smile. Don't be so serious, I said, the pre-planned words tumbling out of my mouth. I just wanted to test you, to see if you'd get mad. You know, to see what was more important, me or your work. The confusion on his face didn't morph into anger, not at first. It curdled into something far worse. Utter, soul-crushing disbelief. He stared at me, then at the phone in my hand, then back at me. The glow he'd walked in with was gone, extinguished as if a switch had been flipped. The color drained from his face. He looked at me as if he'd never seen me before, as if I were a complete stranger who had just wandered into his home and spoken in a language he didn't understand. The silence stretched for an eternity, then his expression changed. It wasn't rage, it was clarity, a terrible, calm, absolute clarity. He stood up slowly, his movements deliberate. "Turn off the video, Alexa," he said. His voice was flat, devoid of any emotion at all. It was the scariest sound I had ever heard. I was paralyzed, my thumb frozen over the screen. He took a step toward me and then another. He didn't reach for the phone, he just looked down at me, his eyes now 2 chips of ice. "I understand now," he said, and the finality in those 3 words was the sound of a door slamming shut and locking from the other side. Forever, I woke up the next morning expecting a fight. I was prepared for yelling, for tears, for a dramatic, drawn-out confrontation where I could slowly play the victim, twist the narrative, and eventually extract the forgiveness I craved. I'd done it before, I was good at it, but the other side of the bed was empty and cold. His pillow was still there, but there was no indentation, he hadn't slept in it. I found him on the sofa, fully dressed in yesterday's clothes, staring at the blank TV screen. He looked like he hadn't moved all night. "Simon," I said, my voice tentative. He didn't turn. "I need you to go out for a few hours, Alexa," he said, his voice still holding that terrifying, flat calm. "Please." It wasn't a request, it was an instruction. Confused and a little unnerved, I agreed. I thought he needed space to cool off. I went to a coffee shop, ordered a latte, and spent 3 hours scrolling through my phone, waiting for the inevitable text message asking me to come home so we could talk. The text never came. When I returned, his keys were on the kitchen counter next to his wallet, a small pile of his personal effects. That's when the first real spike of panic hit me. I ran to the closet. His clothes were gone, his shoes were gone. I checked the bathroom. His toothbrush, his razor, his stupidly expensive face wash, all gone. He hadn't just left, he had excised himself. The systematic dismantling of our shared life began the next day. The first email was from our apartment management company, a sterile, formal notification that Simon Pierce had submitted a request to be removed from the lease agreement for apartment 4 billion, effective immediately. Attached was a digital form for me to sign, acknowledging my sole responsibility for the upcoming rent. An hour later, I tried to pay my phone bill and found my access to our joint bank account was denied. A call to the bank confirmed he had been there that morning, closed the account, and had a cashier's check for his half of the balance mailed to a P.O. box. The social fabric was next. A text from our mutual friend Jessica. "Hey, just heard from C, so sorry things didn't work out between you two, let me know if you need anything." It was worded kindly, but the subtext was clear. Simon had already given his version of the story. A clean, simple, "we broke up." No details, no drama, just a fact. He was building a firewall and all our friends were on his side of it. The final, devastating blow came from the one person I never expected to hear from. I got a call from an unknown number. It was Professor Albright, his PhD advisor. I thought maybe Simon had confided in him, that he was calling to mediate. My heart leaped with a sick, desperate hope. "Alexa, my dear, hello," he said, his voice booming with oblivious cheerfulness. "Simon just told me the good news, and I wanted to offer my personal congratulations to you both." "Good news," I whispered, my throat closing up. "Yes. That postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford he was considering. He told me this morning he's accepting it. Said a change of scenery would do him good, and he wanted to start the next chapter of his life as soon as possible. It's a fantastic opportunity, you must be so proud." I'm back in the apartment, sitting on the floor where this all started. The smell of lemons is starting to give me a headache. After the call with Professor Albright, I went through the final, pathetic stages of denial. I packed a small bag of Simon's remaining things, a worn-out university hoodie he'd left on a chair, a couple of books that had fallen behind the bed. I was going to perform a grand gesture. I was going to show up at his parents' house where I assumed he was hiding out, and I was going to beg. But first, I had to clean. He had taken everything that was obviously his, but our life was a tangled mess of shared objects. As I was emptying a drawer of old electronics and tangled chargers, my fingers brushed against a small, black moleskin notebook. It was his. He used it to jot down ideas, equations, little reminders. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. The pages were filled with his neat, precise handwriting. Formulas for gravitational lensing, notes from lectures, a grocery list from 3 months ago. It was a mundane archive of our life together. I flipped to the very last page. There, in a slightly different, more hurried script, were 2 lines written under the heading December. Tiffany & Co. Research Ring Styles, budget approx. $5,000, check savings. December, that was 2 months away. My birthday, Tiffany's. I dropped the notebook as if it had burned my hand. The sound it made hitting the hardwood floor was small, but it felt like a gunshot in the silent apartment. He wasn't just my boyfriend, he was planning a future, he was planning a proposal. He was looking at engagement rings while I was plotting his emotional vivisection. This small, forgotten piece of evidence wasn't proof of his love, it was a relic from a future I had murdered. It was the autopsy report right there in black and white. Cause of death, me. So here I sit, the bag with his hoodie is still by the door, a monument to a futile pilgrimage I'll never make. My phone is in my hand. I open the gallery, my thumb hovering over the video. I press play, the screen flickers to life. There I am, my face twisted into a smug, ugly smile. I can hear my own voice, high and mocking. Don't be so serious, it says. Then the camera pans to him. I watch his face frame by frame. I watch the light in his eyes go out. I watched the love he had for me die right there in real time. It's a snuff film and I was the director. I finish watching the 17 seconds. My finger moves to the delete button, but I stop, I can't. I go back to the beginning and press play again. I'm trapped in a loop. A part of me screams that he was cruel, that he was too rigid, that a normal person would have fought, not just executed a withdrawal plan. Another part of me knows, with the cold certainty of a physicist calculating the trajectory of a falling object, that I am the sole architect of this empty, lemon-scented hell. I watch the video again and again, trying to pinpoint the exact moment the blade went in, dissecting the corpse, looking for an answer I already know.